Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heavyweights Podcast. In one corner, standing at 6'3", 290 pounds of solid chicken wings, Dustin Urban. And this corner at 6'7", 280 pounds, the one, the only, Big Daddy Nick Klein.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 15 of the Heavyweights Podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Klein, and joining me as always is Dustin Urban. We're out of the NFL draft. There was no real issues with the virtual draft last week, which was surprising. You know, you figured some team would have an IT guy, something with the IT go out.
Yeah, I was impressed.
You'd skip something. So we'll jump into it. So this week, it's basically a giant draft recap. We're going to give grades. We're going to give our biggest surprises. So everything will be focused on that. Going forward, it'll be something a little different, but just like last week, everything's going to be focused on one of the biggest events for the NFL every year, and it's the draft. And even though it was not in Las Vegas, it will be in 2 years. But before we get into our biggest surprises, I'm just curious what you thought of the whole process of the Zoom and everything else.
I was really impressed with the way how smooth it went, like you said, but also, you know, none of the teams ever hit that clock limit, so that was another big thing for me. I thought somebody in there would at least hit it.
Right.
You know, so then just the overall presentation of it, what they did with, you know, I thought they always go a little too in-depth with some of the backgrounds on these players for me.
That's Trey Wingo's biggest thing, and I think a lot of people get annoyed by that, but, you know, he's got to do something when you're filling 5 to 6 hours on Saturday.
I'm just saying, I think they'd go a little too in-depth with some of their stories they go with, but, you know, that a guy bowls a 300 or something, I think that, yeah, there's no reason for me to know that. But overall, I can't really complain about anything other than some of the picks that were made.
I could really argue that I could care less about Roger Goodell sitting on a couch eating M&Ms.
Doing the skull to fans that can't see him.
Or anything. Like, we could have gotten rid of more of Roger Goodell later on, and it could have went to... You still could have had Zoom coming in to having the celebrities usually do rounds 3 or rounds 2. He just seemed scripted and annoyed, and it wasn't for me. And the only other thing I didn't like was it was basically the collaboration between ESPN and NFL Network. It was the same thing on each network, and I'm trying to get away from Mel Kiper. Like, yeah. I loved him growing up. He's not
a little past his prime.
Yeah, and he's lately he's more wrong than he is right. I mean, he also said he was going to retire if Jimmy Clausen didn't work out to be a good quarterback, and begged Todd McShay to give him 8 hours. So it just... There's some things, but overall, it went smooth. It's the most I've watched in the draft in probably 2 to 3 years. I mean, that's all I did on Saturday. So let's just go ahead and just roll right in. Everything went smooth like we talked about. Let's start off with our 5 biggest surprises, and I'll let you go with your number 5.
At number 5, I had the Panthers drafting 0 offensive players. Now, I know they're looking to revamp that defense, but you got to do something for Teddy Bridgewater besides the McCaffrey show.
I mean, you did absolutely nothing. You talked about trading Curtis Samuels. That was floated around before the draft started. It's actually the first time ever that a coach or a team have stayed on one side of the ball for an entire draft. It was a little surprising. I don't know if they made too many reaches, because overall I liked their additions through the first 6 rounds on the defensive side. And maybe that's just how their board went. It'll be a little more interesting to see where Rule talks about going forward, because Rule is technically still an offensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a little surprising. For me, I went a little different direction. You got news early Saturday morning that Joe Staley, longtime tackle, former first-round pick for the 49ers, was retiring. John Lynch was able to work back a little bit, get some more picks earlier in this draft when they had their first round, and was able to ship off a 3rd and a 4th round pick for Trent Williams, who is a all-pro left tackle.
Good deal.
You can keep him on the right or move him to right, or move Mike McGlinchey, the former top 10 pick from 2 years ago. Absolutely loved that deal. You can't get better than that. Like, it's unfortunate that Joe Staley retires. You know, we wish him the best, but you just upgraded on a former Pro Bowl type player. So
yeah,
more protection up front. I don't think it's really going to matter who's in front of that or running behind that offensive line. They're going to have no problems.
Yeah, I agree with that. At number 4, I went with the Patriots drafting 0 quarterbacks. I know they were saying coming into it they were happy with Stidham and Hoyer at there, but I feel like there were quarterbacks to be taken in some of those later rounds that they could have got.
Could have gambled on.
Threw in there to compete.
I mean, I can agree on that, but one thing, when Belichick comes out and says, we just drafted the way our board fell, he's the one player in this, or this one personnel person I will trust throughout this entire process that is going to stick to his guns and will never reach. And so I honestly believe that he didn't have Eason that high, or Fromm, or Morgan, Nate Staley, or any of those guys that you saw go on day 3, because there was no day 2 quarterback stake. Well, there's one.
Right.
He didn't want to take that reach. So I was actually okay with that, but it still was a little bit of a shock.
I just say it was a surprise. Right. I'm not dogging it.
For me, we're going to go back to the first round. Mike Mayock and Gruden, I loved what they did last year in the draft. It started off a little questionable with Henry Ruggs, which you can justify taking one of Ruggs over Judy or Lamb, but for me, it's taking Damon Arnett, my 7th ranked corner, who was a late date round 2 grade for me, maybe early round 3. They took him at 19 overall. He's 23 years old. He's had some questionable leadership show up on Ohio State's game, but he's a quick guy, and can press at the line and is just absolutely terrific in man coverage, is what they want to do in LA. I can't justify this if I'm selling this to my fans or my team for a first round pick when you had other needs there. I wouldn't have been mad if they would have went receiver there again, or Jordan Love was there. I was really surprised they took him.
I was surprised they went there too. Another thing with him, I mean, he's a tough guy. He played last year all year with the cast on his hand. Mm-hmm. So he's not gonna little nick injuries.
But look who was playing on the opposite side of it.
Right. I'm not saying, but that just more to me shows that he was the guy you would go after, other than Jeff Okudah. So he had probably more balls to. I would bet. I don't know.
He actually, and he's actually, Arnett's been a 2-year starter, but I understand. So
I'm just saying he probably had more balls thrown his way.
Okay.
He was. I don't like the pick personally. I don't like it either, but that was a big surprise as well. At 3, I went with Jalen Hurts to Philly. There's one thing I kind of understand about this. It's because Wentz has been banged up a lot in the past. But other than that, I just don't really. That's a big surprise.
You have holes on your offensive line. You could have looked at tackle there. Ezra Cleveland was still on the board. Josh Jones was still on the board. Jason Peters isn't getting any younger. Besides the interior there on that offensive line, they have no weapons on the receiving core. We know that. I know they got Jalen Reagor in the first round, but to me, none of that made sense.
They traded for Godwin, but he's injury prone as hell.
So for number 3 for me, mine was those CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy falling to not just past the Raiders, but down to slots 15 for the Broncos, and then the Cowboys ended up getting CeeDee Lamb. It's shocking to me that they dropped. I know you're going to draft more on needs, and the offensive line will come off the board. We knew that was going to happen. But to see some of these other players come in a little ahead, it shocked me that we got to that point.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for me as well. Number 2 for me was Jordan Love to the Packers. Wow. Couldn't really, didn't see that coming. I can honestly say that. And I don't hate the pick, but there were far bigger needs for the Packers, I believe. And it was just, it was the biggest shock of first round for me, and I'll get to my my number 1 in a minute.
My number 2, just repeating, Jalen Hurts for me was number 2 going in. I had to do a double take. To me, this is the worst pick of the first 2 rounds by far. This tops Damon Arnett.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there when you give a quarterback a 5-year, $100 million extension and say, you know what, we're going to go in and draft a guy that we think can be ready in 2 to 3 years when we've just signed you to 5 years. When Wentz has been healthy, which he only missed 3 games last year, he's elite.
Yeah.
Get him some help when you have those options there.
Right.
I get that you...
And he's only 27.
You fell in love. you fell in love with Jalen Hurts, but he's still got some questionable decision making. He can't...
Yeah.
The accuracy at the second level for him, 15 yards down the field, is not there. He does have a cannon of an arm. He can move around in the pocket, but to anybody out there that's going to say these Taysom Hill comparisons, Hill's a lot more athletic. Hurts cannot go in and play running back or even slot right now. He can't.
No.
Hill showed that he could do that. Hurts hasn't even tried. It just makes no sense. For me, number 1, though, this is not a knock on Jordan Love, but for the Packers to trade up and go get him at 26, it makes no sense. I love Love. He was personally the 3rd overall quarterback for me behind Tua and Burrow, but it just no part of this. You need to invest in it, and it didn't have to even be a receiver there. I'd have been okay with a corner
or defense,
something, any other position besides quarterback and running back right there. I would have been okay with. Yep. And you've just shown that I think this is them slowly trying to push Rodgers out.
Yeah.
And LaFleur trying to swing his dick and say, this is my team, we're going to do it my way, which is fine. But you're talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time who he's hit his peak and he's not what he was 3 to 4 years ago, but he is still a top 5 quarterback in this league. Yeah. And there's no question about that. So I get people can say, oh, they've never taken a first round receiver. Okay, that's fine, but this year's class was extremely deep,
right?
And you did nothing with that.
That's what I'll roll that into my number one. The Packers don't take any wide receiver in the entire draft. That is amazing to me. Like that's my biggest shocker. Like I get you got Devontae Adams, he's one of the best receivers in football, and then you sign Funchess. But other than that, I mean, come on, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
they are trying to irritate Aaron Rodgers, to get him to act up, to get him to, have one of those hot takes. And they're trying to make Aaron force himself out of there instead of the natural progression of him getting out of there.
The team's going to have to give up so much, and I'm not sure that happens. I still think there's a 99.9% chance he's the quarterback under center this year there. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's no scenario I could see.
Right, and we'll get into that more later because we still have our draft grades to go over, but let's just shift it into some better, more positive news. We're going to also do our 3 biggest winners and losers. We'll start off with the winners just to get away from that talk. I'm going to start off with my third. I actually have a 3-way tie here. The Vikings, the Cowboys, and then I can't believe I'm going to say this, the Jets. The Jets were able to trade back in the second round. One, to me, they got Mekhi Becton at 11 overall, which was my number 1 offensive tackle. He has Jonathan Ogden type size, has the potential to be a perennial all-pro player for the next 8 to 10 years and 14 Pro Bowls. But in the second round, you're able to trade back and still get Denzel Mims later on and pick up another third-round pick.
Yeah, I like that.
And then you're able to get another starter after that. I love what they did. The Cowboys just let people fall to them. They got 3 potential starters, impact starters, 5 overall starters. We'll go over that later. And the Vikings were able to haul in 15 draft picks. I know 4 of them were the 7th round, but they just got value and they let the board fall to them. That's why I love those 3 there at the tie for third.
Yeah, the number 3 was hard for me. I had the Cardinals right there. I had the Vikings right there, but I went with the Colts. I like what they did with getting Jonathan Taylor. You're shoring up that running back position for the future. You go out and get a Michael Pittman, which I didn't hate. A lot of people didn't have him going that high in the second round, but he's a good receiver, and he's got a lot of room to grow. More. I think his ceiling's really high, and then they made good picks throughout the rest of the draft to where I couldn't sit there and go, what are they doing? And then picking up Jacob Eason in the 4th round. I like taking a flyer on him right there. I mean, if you told me they would get him in the 4th round going into this, I would have been ecstatic.
No, I get that. I mean, I'll get more into that later. I don't hate any of their picks. It's just for me, the other 3 did a little more. But overall, I still am pleased with the Colts draft. My number 2 is probably gonna surprise a lot of people. I know some people were a little shocked, but it was the Denver Broncos. They're going all in on this. Let's give Drew Lock the weapons. And my thing is if this Drew Lock doesn't work out, you can go trade for an Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr, someone that's proven. They are going to have weapons out the ass because you doubled down on receiver in the first 2 rounds. You get KJ Hamler out of Penn State, who is a freak of an athlete, and you get, in my opinion, the number 1 overall receiver in this class, and Jerry Jeudy to just drop to you without having to give anything up. Yeah. And you still go back and you get, Ezra Cleveland, you get some more players, not Ezra Cleveland, you get some more players in the 3rd and 4th round here that are just going to surround Lock with all this talent.
Yeah, I don't hate that. With 2, I went with the Baltimore Ravens. I really liked how they came out, and they traded, or they didn't trade for Patrick Queen. They stayed put, didn't they?
Yeah.
They drafted Patrick Queen. They picked up a J.K. Dobbins to give you that second back to go with Mark Ingram. That was one of the biggest problems for them last year in the playoff game. They didn't have that running back to give it to because Mark Ingram was injured. and everybody.
Well, it's a
keyed
different
on
style
Jack.
here. It's almost like a thunder and lightning right there.
No,
what
but
Dobbins can do. I'm just talking about what Dobbins is going to be able to bring to the table.
And then, the rest of their draft, I just felt like they didn't reach on anybody, and they just picked solid players all the way through.
I can't agree with you more there. The Baltimore Ravens were my number one. I've got it highlighted right here. I've got 6 potential starters they've got on their team next year that they got in this draft alone. Another team that's always drafted well. They find depth. Ozzie Newsome was great at it before he stepped down. They're not going to reach on players. Usually you're going to see them trade back a little bit, and they're just going to let the draft fall, their personal board follow them. Like getting Malik Harrison that late in the 3rd round, who, yes, had some injury issues, but is a do-it-all linebacker that's going to come in and be able to play special teams right away and rotate in, getting Patrick Queen there, and getting Justin Matabuke, who potential fringe. A lot of people were talking about late 1st round, early 2nd, being one of the premier defensive tackles out of Texas A&M, is very quick, powerful. And getting him to
line's gonna be nasty.
They've invested some major pieces in there. We'll go over more of it later, but that by far they just walked away winning the draft for me.
I like that. Number one for me, I went with the Cowboys, and here's why. I love that CeeDee Lamb pickup. They were really hurting. In my eyes, they were hurting for that clear number 2 receiver, and down the line, maybe CeeDee Lamb might turn into your number 1. I don't.
That allows Galladay to go back more into the slot too, or just
Gallup.
Gallup,
Yeah,
Galladay.
Yeah, you're good.
Gallup it'll help him
Right,
relieve
and
some
then
pressure.
in the 2nd round they go and get a. I don't think any corner possibly is better on their team right now than Trayvon Diggs. Like, he's gonna start at least in the slot for them, and I don't see any reason why he won't be playing day 1. Then you go get a Neville Gallimore to pair with Gerald McCoy and DeMarcus Lawrence up front, and then you got Alden Smith and Randy Gregory on the other side. That's going to be a really good little rotation they got going there.
And you can bring him on slowly. So yeah, I mean,
another team that I don't, and they went and got Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin.
I know
he can play. So he's probably gonna beat out whoever else they have there for the center position. I wouldn't be surprised to see
he'll
him.
be your day 1 starter. I was
Yeah.
going to talk about that later. I didn't want to just go into all their picks, but he's their day 1 starter at center since Frederick retired. Love that he dropped to the 5th round.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll shift again. Let's start off with the 3 biggest losers. I don't know if most people were talking about them enough, but for me, the number 3 for me is the New Orleans Saints. They trade up a little bit. They get Cesar Ruiz, who, yes, is
Good
the best center in this draft.
But a reach.
And you're giving away your 3rd round pick, I believe, there. And then, not only that, in the 4th round, you give up all 3 of your day 3 picks to come up and get a reach on a tight end there. And so that left you with league low, I think, 5 draft picks. So, and then you end up trading back in round 7. Yeah, so you end up actually only having 4 draft picks. I don't mind Zach Bond there in the 3rd round. He had some injury, but to trade, I think it was your 5th, 6th, and 7th to move up farther into the 3rd to get Adam Troutman out of Dayton, who, tested really well at the combine. Stirred some heads. I think he ran low 4.5s. It just, to me, that was way too much of a reach, and they kind of just wasted anything they wanted to do in a year when you need to go all in, because we know it's Drew Brees' last year.
Yeah. At number 3, I went with the Patriots. I didn't like some of their picks going. I didn't much care for the Lenore Ryan pick.
Yeah, we're going to argue about that.
I don't think he's that great of a pick. I think there's some other guys you could have got there. I did kind of like the Josh Uche pick. You went back-to-back years picking Michigan edge rushers, basically, and Winovich, I think they got last year. Mm-hmm. And then them not picking up a quarterback to me just to get in there and compete, because we all seen Hoyer when he played for the Colts last year. He's a clear backup quarterback. I think everybody knew that before he even played for the Colts last year. But he's not good. And everything I've seen from Stidham, you can light it up against the 7th round and 6th round picks in the preseason and think you're real good, but I just don't see it.
I understand. All right, let's go with your number 2 biggest loser.
Number 2, I had the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
didn't help their offensive line really at all until the later rounds,
until the very last round.
And they could have had some pretty decent guys where they sat at, and then they just went with defense a lot. And I mean, I get that this is a defensive team, and they needed a couple of pieces, but they're really hoping that defense just dominates everything and then their offense can be mediocre again, I guess.
I just think it's a testament to what Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy think they have on their team. They could have made some other, to me, better moves. But number 2 for me, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you completely reach in round 1. You have the chance to take Justin Jefferson or even Brandon Ayuk, receiver out of Arizona State, who I had higher on my board, but you reach on Jalen Reagor, who had some questionable drops 2 years ago, got hurt, and then came back to a new quarterback this year at TCU and just looked lost at times. Yes, he's quick. He can return punts for you. He's a very good return man. He's a speedster that you're going to be able to throw in the X, the Y.
He had some injury concerns coming
2 years ago. And I think that's too much of a reach. And then you turn around in round 2 and you go and get Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to understand that unless by some miracle he is the next Lamar Jackson, which he's not nearly as talented as Lamar was.
Or speedy.
But can't throw the ball. So it just, everything they did, even the rounds after that, I'm not really sold on anything they're doing. And they could have gotten more receiver help to me later on. They went and got Davion Taylor out of Colorado, who you had other players there. Not everything they had depth in picks later on. They didn't get enough to win now and to be able to contribute this year. You took some flyers on some guys that have high risk, high reward. So I don't like anything they did, really.
Yeah, and then moving to my biggest loser, I can see your sheet here. We both have the same pick here. It's the Green Bay Packers. I'm not going to harp too much on the Jordan Love pickup because, like we said, we both like Jordan Love. Like, we don't think he's a bad player, but it's a bad fit, personally. It's for a team that, and then you go to their second round pick. There's so many wide receivers there. I don't hate A.J. Dillon. Like, he's a bruiser back. You know,
he got a 4th round grade from me. I don't understand it there. I
don't understand the pick. That's not a need.
It's too much of a reach. And I know that we talked about it. LaFleur wanted to get another running back.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I didn't hate some of their later picks with the linemen, get in there and compete. But other than that, man, to not pick a wide receiver in possibly the best wide receiver draft of all time, and you need wide receiver help, is just out of this world to me.
Yeah, and they reached in the 3rd round too. They came up and they got Josiah Deguara, another guy that not terrible at Cincinnati, but I promise you, this tight end class was not good. It's going to bounce back next year. You've got the kid out of Penn State looks really good. I was watching some film on him today. It's just anything they did here, I don't see how you can sit down and justify this saying, we got extremely better to, compete for the division and not just the division, to get out of the NFC. And you didn't do anything here that's going to help that. You just created more turmoil. You're going to have to answer questions all year. Why did you, draft Jordan Love here when you could have had, especially if one of these other receivers goes off that's even in the 2nd round, you're going to have some major questions to answer. So,
and one of them will.
Yeah.
One of them will be great.
More than likely, yes.
It just happens.
There's going to be some busts no matter what. I mean, we could all be wrong. Some of these guys flat out are going to be busts, but I don't see it. So let's shift again. Let's go over our draft grades. We're going to start off in the AFC. We're just going to go division by division.
Yeah, we're going to start off in the AFC East. We'll start with the Miami Dolphins. I had them with a C+ grade. What'd you do, Dave?
I gave them a B+. I love Tua Tagovailoa. He got hurt. I get it. But for people to say that he's injury prone, that's not it. A freak of an injury in that game. What I really don't like is their second pick in the 1st round, Austin Jackson.
Big reach.
think he's not a starter right now. He has more upside than probably every offensive lineman taken ahead of him outside of Mekhi Becton.
Because he's so young.
He's only 20, but he got ate up in that bowl game against AJ Epinesa when they got just worked by Iowa. His footwork's not there, but I love the Noah Igbanye, their last first-round pick. Then they start getting depth here, and I absolutely love it. Robert Hunt is a big, mauling tackle that can come in. You could switch him down to guard if you want to, but he's probably going to play your right tackle. Then you got Roquan Davis, who, yes, was hurt 2 years ago. The production wasn't there, but you roll on that film, he is in the right spot every single time. He is going to be a rotational defensive tackle starter from day one. I love the Brandon Jones other third-round pick. From Texas. And then later on, you get Curtis Weaver in the 5th round, who I was surprised was still there.
Yeah.
You know, another guy, injury history, did well at the combine, though, and just makes plays when you turn on that film. And to get him that late, I think you've got another rotation player. You've got some other needs in there, like Blake Ferguson. 6th round, might be able to start for you at center later. He's from LSU. And then Jason Snowbridge, the guard out of Georgia, I believe. Or is it the D end? No, the D end.
Oh, sorry.
D end out of North Carolina. Sorry, he'll be able to come in and rotate too. So I like everything they did. You just eventually, after I think that Austin Jackson, they let the board fall to them. Again, another team that did that and just picked up the best, which is what I think Flores needed to do.
Yeah, I really didn't like that Austin Jackson pick, and that's
That
why
can show.
That's why I gave him a C+ grade. But we'll move on to the New York Jets.
Yeah.
I had them at a B+. I like a lot of things they did here. The Mekhi Becton pickup was, I couldn't believe. I know he got in trouble, or not got in trouble, but he failed that drug test right before the draft and everything, or at the combine, you said. But, to get Denzel Mims right there in the second,
yeah, he got him in the second, 59 overall.
Yeah, and then
Ashton Davis, former walk-on at Cal, the safety, actually won the 100 meters in the Pac-12 2 years ago. He can come down in that nickel slot. He can come in. He'll basically be opposite of Jamal Adams for you right now, but he's going to be a rotation player at minimum. I think he'll eventually be your starter. And then with that extra 3rd-round pick you got for trading back, and you still got Denzel Mims, you come back and you get Jabari Zuniga, who 2 years ago would have been, or last year, I guess you could say, would have been a 2nd-round pick. I get he only played 6 games last year at Florida. You can stand him up on the outside. You can bring him down inside the 3 or 4 technique, or 3 or 5 technique. He is going to be a presence. And then you finally get something to go with Le'Veon Bell and the Michael P. Ryan.
I like that pick.
Love that pick there.
He had his moments at Florida, and he looked pretty good in the North-South game.
Yeah, and then I'm going through their whole draft here. Then you get James Morgan, quarterback out of Florida National. I know a lot of people were high on him.
A lot of people were high on him.
Great backup right now. You can see what you got with him. If not, you wasted a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
But then you come back, you get Cameron Clark, who started all 4 years at Charlotte at left tackle. Just another guy that he gets a little too handsy, but he can be, depth. You need that offensive line is going to be reworked.
And he can get NFL coaching and get better.
But right now he's probably a good utility lineman, and for where you take him, I'm okay with that. Then Bryce Hall drops because he had a slower 40 at the combine, but he's a physical corner, good there. And then you get a starting punter later on. I'm never going to be mad at that. You needed one. You got one of the better punters in the NCAA. So there's not a single pick for the Jets here, which I don't think I've ever been able to say that I don't like.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a reach. So we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills. Their 1st-round pick, technically, we can go ahead and say it was Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And so I don't hate that there because, you would have taken a receiver. You would have had Justin Jefferson there, which would have been really nice. But we can say right now Stephon Diggs is better than Justin Jefferson because, Jefferson hasn't
We've
stepped
seen him play in the league.
And he hasn't stepped onto the field. So I gave them a B overall.
I gave him a B-.
Okay. So what do you like, or do you want me to start off?
I liked getting AJ Epinesa in the 2nd round. He was a 1st-round grade until the combine. He would have been late in the 1st round, but
similar size to, was it Jordan Phillips they just lost to Arizona?
Yeah.
But a younger player right there. I don't mind that right there, especially to get him later in the 2nd.
And getting Zach Moss to go in there with Singletary.
Yeah.
He's not a terrible backup. So it'll be interesting to see that 1-2 punch.
I know 40s aren't everything, but to run a 4.68 terrifies me there.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but what I really like here, if we're gonna, they got Jake Fromm, whatever. They took another kicker, but
he's not starting.
The intriguing pick here for me is Gabriel Davis, the receiver out of UCF. He's 6'2", 216, so you gave Josh Allen another big red zone target.
Yeah.
He ran a 4.54, which for that size isn't terrible. He created some separation. I'd like to see him attack the ball higher at the point when the ball's up in the air, but that's a pick that we could look back in 2 years and say, how did he fall all the way to the 5th round?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The division winner last year, the New England Patriots. I threw down and actually gave him B. I'm assuming you're a hell of a lot lower.
I want a C-.
How do you not like Kyle Duggar, who is a hybrid type safety?
I didn't say anything about Duggar.
You said you didn't like Duggar.
No, it was their second pick.
Oh, Josh Uke?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lenore Ryan.
Yeah.
This dude ended up running in the low 4.5s, one of the faster safeties. You put on the tape, of course he's going to shine because he's the best player on that field at a D2 level down there in Georgia. But he can play multiple positions. He looked fluid when we saw him at the combine when we went in person. This guy is a prototypical Bill Belichick. I'm going to create a position for you on that back end of that secondary. And it's almost what Mayweather played for him years ago. It's going to be all over the place. He's a hard hitter, isn't afraid to get down in the box either. I absolutely love that pick. The one I'm concerned about for them, though, is I know they loved him, on film, his former 5-star, is Dalton Keene, the tight end out of UCLA.
Yeah. I don't know
it's a little much of a reach. The others, potential starters down the line. They obviously got Gostowski's replacement, Justin Rowasser, who was... former kicker.
He's had a lot of stuff come out about him here late.
Yeah.
Tattoo on his arm, but
he's getting that removed.
Yeah.
But all right.
Then we'll move to the AFC North, and we'll go with the team that had the first pick in the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals. I had them at a B+. Everybody knew they were taking Joe Burrow, but then to come back and have. I thought T. Higgins would go to like the Packers or something late in that first round, but to get him there and this early in the second, I really like that pickup. And then to go with Logan Wilson's, you need some linebacker help there, and you get another linebacker from Appalachian State. I don't know much about him, but you get some competition in there at linebacker, and add another defensive end from Notre Dame. Just a rotation player. I don't hate what the Bengals did here.
I absolutely loved what the Bengals did. You're investing in a Joe Burrow, and you made that very quick, real early on. You grabbed T. Higgins at the very top of round 2. An A.J. Green type without the speed type player who can catch anything, throw into a big receiver that's going to be another red zone threat. Logan Wilson's very good in coverage, the linebacker out of Wyoming they took in the 3rd round. And then Akeem Davis-Gaither out of Appalachian State, another quick range type linebacker. And then Khalid Kareem, the end out of Notre Dame, who might have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick later last year, just didn't make enough plays this year, looked a tick too slow at times. But what I really loved here is then you come back in the 6th round, you get Akeem Adeniji, who is a big guard from Kansas. I think he's 345 pounds, physical, strong. If they can work on his footwork, he is a starter in maybe 2 years. And so you're just trying to protect, Joe Burrow. Yeah. So everything they didn't, move around. They just took what was given to them. But I love that you addressed an option for Burrow going on, because AJ Green's probably only got 2 to 3 years left in this league.
And Tyler Boyd, he had his moments last year. I mean, he's a
legit number 2 right now.
Yeah, he's a number 2. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, he's a number 2. I mean, Ross, they took in the first round he's not it. He's
still never shown much.
And then he took a flyer on a special teams player, Marcus Bailey, at the very end in the 7th round out of Purdue, who at worst is going to be on special teams for you. So you got better overall. So I gave him an A- for that, just because I love the direction. And plus you get, a generational talent at quarterback. If it doesn't work out, we're all going to sit back and say, how do we, we get fooled by 1 year of stats and everything. But for now, I love the pick.
Yeah.
So, We'll go to the team that finished second in that division, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I gave them, or no, it'd be the Cleveland Browns. Let's go.
Well, they finished third, but yeah. We're going to go with the Browns here. Yeah. I gave them a B+. Would you grade them at?
I gave them just a straight B. I don't like Jedrick Wills. All right, that's fine. You know, I had him as my third best tackle. You needed to take a tackle there. You made it very clear you weren't going to trade for Trent Williams. Okay, that's fine. Delpit, you take another secondary player out of LSU in the second round 2 years in a row. They took Greedy Williams last year. Those are two players that, you know, their sophomore years were All-Americans, looked great. You wonder if fame got to them, you know, they're all over the board, you know, they're going to be a top 10 pick, and then they just looked lazy at times.
Yeah, they're feeling themselves.
They're feeling them. So this is now their job, and they can be cut at any time. So Williams looked lost at times last year. I hope that doesn't help him to Delpit, because if he turns into what we thought he was before the season started, you got one of the best, not just safeties in this class, one of the best defensive players in this class.
Yeah, that's why I gave him a B+. Just the potential with Delpit, not so much how he played last year. Then, I mean, you go with their third-round pick. They get a Jordan Elliott out of Missouri. He can come in and rotate in.
You wonder why he transferred so much, but he's a former 5-star. He had at times where he looked good.
Yeah. And then they went with Jacob Phillips, linebacker from LSU. And I don't think he's going to come in there and play right away, but they need some linebacker help after they lose Joe Sherbert.
I'm just waiting for you to say about their 6th-round pick, because you've been harping on him for 2 months.
Oh, yeah. Also, I really like Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he's going to be a decent receiver in this league. Now, he's not going to get as many touches as I would have figured he would have, you know, if he'd went to a different team.
He's almost going to get none. Zero at this point.
But I guarantee you by midway, or I don't guarantee it, but I strongly think that by midseason, he'll be their number 3 wide receiver for sure. I mean, that's the best he can hope for.
Yeah, they got a B for me. So, I mean, I don't hate everything.
Yeah.
I don't like the Harrison Bryant pick in the 4th round, the tight end out of Florida Atlantic. I just think
that really doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? I think it's because I'm so down on this tight end class. I just don't. You could have addressed other needs. Get some depth on your offensive line.
Especially when you got 2 starting tight ends already.
You know, get another corner in there that you could have brought in. You know, I know Bryce Hall was still available at that point, and I thought, you know, he'd have been a great fit to try to come in and get into your slot. But let's move on to the next team in the division, you know, another one of their rivals. Big Ben's back next year. The Pittsburgh Steelers have one of my lower grades. I gave them a C+. You're not going to see me sit here and knock on the Chase Claypool 2nd-round pick for them. You know, he's going to be a great fit in that red zone. There's been 2 players over 230 pounds and over 6'3" to run that fast. Him and Calvin Johnson. You know, you're in some elite category. Was he inconsistent at times at Notre Dame? Yes, but the spectacular catch, the catch radius has been there for him. You know, he's had some questionable quarterbacks throwing to him. You know, Ian Book got better last year, but it's not like Notre Dame's been sitting out there throwing out great for. Yeah. And Kelly usually doesn't. He usually puts one receiver on an island, and that's the only person they're throwing to. You know, before it was him, you know, they had Miles Boykin last year. Before that, they had Equanius St. Brown, who's in Green Bay. So for me, though, after that, it's where it gets really interesting, and I don't love anything. Alex Highsmith is basically a T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree type player. You take him in the 3rd round. Then Anthony McFarland Jr., the running back out of Maryland, I actually do like. He is almost like a James Conner. You get some depth there, but I don't see anything else here that's going to help you out in the meantime. Everybody else to me looks either like special teams or Kevin Dotson, the guard out of Louisiana, who is very strong, but no footwork to me and doesn't punch on initial contact, and I don't like that. So it just, to me, that's another reach.
I gave them a C+ as well. They just don't have anybody that jumps off the paper at you and is like, man, that's a really good pick right there. You know, at that position where they were drafting. So I don't hate the wide receiver they got from
Chase Claypool.
I don't hate that pickup because they're always really
they
good.
They need someone opposite of Juju.
Yeah, and Washington really hasn't shown you a lot.
A little bit. He came together last year, his second year, but he's more of a slot. And then even their rookie from last year, who was in the 3rd round as well, they are more of a slot over the middle type player. Now you have the potential to get Juju and Claypool on the outsides. Big Ben can still throw it, and so, go in while you can on him. I know a lot of people are like, why didn't they take Jalen Hurts? I'm not sold on this Jalen Hurts second or third round hype train. I hope I'm proven wrong by the young man.
I thought third round would be right where he should go.
But a lot of people had him second round. A lot of people had him going to Pittsburgh. But, to win in this division, you've got to keep pace with what the Baltimore Ravens are doing. And what they did was, to me, have the best draft this year, and we've talked about it in length. They come in, and I gave them an A. Not only did we talked about the Patrick Jacobs, Devin Duvernay, the wide receiver out of Texas, can come in that slot role. Miles Boykin, was your third round pick last year, didn't really produce as much as you thought he would, but you come in, and then you get Tyree Phillips, that 6'5", 330-pound guard out of Mississippi State. He will be your day one starter to replace Marshall Yanda. Ben Bredson maybe can come in and play center for you. You don't know, a guard center combo.
Or he might be a good utility guy.
Yeah, and then James Prosh, the wide receiver out of Southern Methodist. I know they showed up highlights of him when that pick was happening, just an X-type slot receiver. You take a flyer on him at worst. He can be a kick returner, punt returner, and special teams player. So just everything they did here, I love. They have the potential to have 6. I got 6 starters potentially down the line.
Yeah.
So absolutely amazing. You want to switch to the AFC South?
Oh, yeah. Here we go. We're going to kick it to the AFC South. And first, we're going to start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Personally, I gave them a B. I liked the C.J. Henderson pick. After you trade away your 2 best corners the last 2 years, or the last full year, yeah. To get C.J. Henderson there, he's day one starter. He's going to come in there and play. Then you go with the 20th pick and get a Clavon Chason. With all the problems they're having with Yannick and Ngakoue, whenever they do move on from him, he's going to step right in, and him and Josh Allen are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then you get a Laviska Shenault late in the second. I like that. They needed a wide receiver, and he's not terrible.
Yeah. C.J. Henderson and Chason, I'm okay with. Chason, was obviously the second best edge rusher in this draft class, and he fell to 20 just because of other things going on ahead of him, just, a couple reaches at corner. Laviska Shenault, the 42nd overall, I'm not sold on. I mean, that's the 9th pick in the second round. He had that broken foot. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I'm not sold in this offense with him, what they can do.
I hope he sucks.
Devon Hamilton, though, I do like their third-round pick, the D-tackle out of Ohio State. He's going to be not what Calais Campbell was by any means, but he has some high upside. And then, you still need offensive line help. They took a project there on Ben Barch, the tackle out of D2 St. John's in Minnesota. I don't know what that's going to bring. Josiah Scott, the corner out of Michigan State. I don't hate everything here. You got some major, and you're probably going to hit on 2 or 3 players here. I mean, even Colin Johnson, the wide receiver out of Texas, later on in round 5, he had some drop issues, but he looked good at times too. I'm giving him a B. Just mostly, I think, is because of Henderson and Chason and Hamilton. I think are going to be starters in this league for 2 to 3, minimum 2 to 3 more years.
I agree.
So.
We'll move on to both of our favorite teams, the Indianapolis Colts. I think they did pretty good. I gave them an A. They addressed the wide receiver position. They surprised me with the Jonathan Taylor pickup. I can't act like I thought that's where they were going to go. But I like the pick. I really do. He's a workhorse back, and we don't have any of those, really. So, and then you get a Julian Blackmon in the 3rd round. I don't hate that either. I mean, we need some safety help depending on what we're going to do with Malik Hooker down the line. Not a terrible. And then you go get a Jacob Eason in the 4th round, and a lot of people had him going a lot higher. So I can't really bitch too much about what they did there. And the rest of the picks, it's just I don't hate anything they did.
All right, we can do a rundown. I gave them a B+. I love the Michael Pittman Jr. there. A lot of people out there were probably banging their their hands down for Denzel Mims or even Chase Claypool. Pittman has better hands, had a less drop rate than both of those guys. You know, the Pac-12 can produce receivers, and, you know, he was one of the better players in the Pac-12 last year. I really love that pick. Jonathan Taylor, you can't argue with. You know, if this guy could have caught the ball a little more out of the backfield, didn't have some of the fumble issues that he had, we're talking a top 10 pick. But, you know, we ran that 4.39. You get worried about the touches, but for now, he's going to go in there with Marlon Mack. You know, I actually end up loving that pick. Julian Blackmon here is where it gets interesting for me. So I went back and watched him. He was a corner until last year. They moved him back to safety, and, you know, all he did was lead the Pac-12 in interceptions with 9 before Terry's ACL in that Pac-12 championship game. He was probably a 6th or 7th round pick as a corner, but if he doesn't tear his ACL, he's top of round 2 this past week. So this is a guy that they can plug in that range. What Eberflus likes to do with his safeties is you're going to see Kari Willis and Malik Hooker. You know, they're going to have rotation. That's why George Odom plays so much. And Blackman's able to play nickel. You know, he can come in the box. He can play, you know, basically a range safety and then cover safety. So he's going to be able to do anything. He's just not going to be able to play until October because he's coming back from this. Eason, you're taking a flyer on. You know, he's a 6'6". He's got a cannon of an arm. But after that, there's not really many traits, you know, questionable accuracy issues, questionable decision making, and work ethic was a big thing. But then you come back, here's where I really start to like it. The Danny Pittner, he's a guard out of Ball State, played tackle, former tight end. You know, you needed that utility offensive lineman to come in and play behind Glowinski and Smith that they can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Or even, you know, Kelly, who's had some injuries in his career.
For sure.
So you get that in the 5th. And then Robert Windsor's a big D tackle, might be able to make in a rotation. But what I love later on is the Isaiah Rodgers, the reportedly at his pro day, verified with scouts there, 4.28 40.
Damn.
He is a very quick corner that can be a major weapon with
Is that the
Nyheim
guy
Hines.
from Massachusetts?
Yes, Nyheim Hines in the return game. So I really love that pick. And then you've got Jordan Glasgow. Both of his brothers were walk-ons at Michigan. Both are in the NFL now. He's now in the NFL, although his brothers are offensive and defensive linemen. He's going to be an immediate special teams player, which is what they got there. And then Desmond Patton's basically the same guy as Michael Pittman, just drop issues there. So
Yeah.
B+. So I really like it. The Julian Blackmon's probably my favorite pick because this has the potential to say, like, holy shit, here's your Pro Bowl type safety that can play 4 different positions. He just got to come back from that ACL injury.
Yeah. And then we're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans. I went C plus here. And here's why. There was another team that it's just head scratching to me. I like their first 2 picks for sure. I can't hate on either one of those. With Isaiah Wilson, it might be a little high for me, but he's a good player.
A little high. I'll agree with that.
He's a good player. And then Christian Fulton, he can come in there and play for you. You need some cornerback help after losing Logan Ryan. But to not get a wide receiver after, you know, what we've seen from them over the past few years, you know, Corey Davis, he hasn't really shown us much other than like a couple flashes here and there. And it's just, I mean, I don't hate anything they did. I just don't know why they didn't, you know, with the receiver depth in this class not going after one.
I gave them a B because, you know, Isaiah Wilson was probably a reach, but you know what? He's going to be a right tackle in this league, so I don't hate it there.
Yeah.
You know, you could have traded back and probably gotten him, honestly, if someone wanted to sneak in late. And, you know, that would have been a good trade partner with the Colts had Jordan Love not just gone.
Right.
Because a lot of people still had him linked. Christian Fulton, I love the value there, you know, in round 2. Especially later in round 2. I was really surprised he kept dropping. And then Darrison Evans, the running back out of Appalachian State, is a speed demon out of the backfield. And that is a perfect fit to pair with Derrick Henry. So I love it. I get you're saying on the wide receivers, but by the time they probably got around to the 4th or 5th, next pick would have been the 5th round, they might not have had anybody valued there, and I'm okay with that. You know, do I love everything them not addressing that position? No, but it doesn't ruin their whole draft for me.
Right.
I still love their top 3 picks, so I still think they've got some contributors there. Cole McDonald, though, they took in the 7th, quarterback out of Hawaii. He was actually pretty fast. one of the faster ones, but he's got, a quick twitch arm. I think you got found, hopefully, your backup for the next couple of years, if not more, because you never know what these might be in the league, might be out. Right. But I don't hate that pick. So let's go on to the division winner, the Houston Texans. I personally gave a B-, and that's mostly because, they had to trade away too much. They should have had a first-round pick here, just from the simple standpoint. Yeah, they got Laramie Tunsil, which was worth the first-round pick, but they should have gotten a first-round pick, bar none, for DeAndre Hopkins. I still will never understand how they didn't do it. But what I really love here is they get my third overall D tackle in the second round. You lost DJ Reader to the Bengals in free agency, and you turn around and you get Russ Blacklock out of TCU. Absolutely love it. Jonathan Grenard, linebacker out of Florida, in the third round. Kind of questionable. I still think you have more holes in that offensive line, and you could have went receiver there because, the receivers you have can't stay healthy. None of them. Yeah. So I think I'm keeping them there at that B- because I love the Blacklock, and I'm still considering Laramie Tunsil a first-round pick for this year.
Right. Which I gave him a C+, and a lot of that had to do with not getting something back for Hopkins, but Blacklock there, defensive tackle, like you touched on, that's a great pickup for them. And I'm not really a fan of a whole lot that they've done here, but they didn't make any gaudy bad picks for me. Okay. So we'll move on to the AFC West and
kick it off with the Chargers, Urban.
Kick it off with the Chargers. I gave them a B-. All right. And I liked. I think they made the pick they didn't have to make, but they needed to make there. I probably would have went with Jordan Love, but I get, they've probably seen more of Herbert than a lot of teams being out west there, but they could have also took a pretty good look at Jordan Love too. But
they did.
We'll see. We'll see. Down the line what happens. But then to trade back in and get a Kenneth Murray to go with the rest of that defense, man, I really like that. And then Josh Kelly, running back from UCLA, not a terrible pickup. He was he really showed out at the Senior Bowl. He had over 100 yards rushing in the Senior Bowl, and they didn't another team that just didn't do anything terrible for me, and I liked their first three picks.
I give them a C+. I'm not a fan of Herbert. I'm not going to be. I hope I'm proven wrong.
I'm not a fan of him either, but I just.
And I love Kenneth Murray. I had him rated higher than Patrick Queen. My problem is that you gave away your second and both of your thirds, I believe, to move back up into the first. So you get no depth there. And you don't come back until you get a Josh Kelly, in the fourth round. Okay, so he's going to rotate in more than likely with Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other thing I really like here is KJ Hill dropped to the seventh round, and they got him, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Has some major upside. But, Kenneth Murray's there. They gave up too much, in my opinion, to come back into the first and get him. He will fit into that defense nice, though. I won't argue that.
Yeah.
Denzel Perriman's, an old school linebacker, but Kenneth Murray is a linebacker that can play sideline to sideline in coverage and can rush the passer.
Yeah, they're building a really good defense.
Let's move on to a questionable team next that a lot of people mostly are talking about. Is probably one of the worst drafts. The Las Vegas Raiders. I actually ended up giving them a B-. Ruggs, I'm not going to get torn up. Yes, they reached over probably Lamb and Judy, but we don't know that yet. Because to sit here and say that Ruggs wasn't a first round or even top 15 talent is not true. He's going to be linked because of the speed and Al Davis. Okay, that's fine. Damon Arnett, we're not going to talk about anymore. Not a great pick. I love the fact that they come back around, though, and they get Lynn Bowden Jr., who is a former quarterback, wide receiver, running back combo from Kentucky that played all over the goddamn field last year. He was forced to play quarterback later on and, ended up setting Kentucky's all-time rushing yards in a season by a quarterback. And then getting Brian Edwards out of South Carolina, who couldn't run at the combine, who probably would have been, a top 6-7 receiver for people, broke almost all the records. And you got to think, Deebo Samuel just had a great year in San Francisco. They were teammates, and Edwards was still the better receiver on the team. He just, set almost every single school record down there. Love that. And then Amik Robertson, their fourth-round corner, physical, going to jam you at the line type of what Gruden wants to do in those Tampa 2 or those cover cover 2 schemes that he loves to run. So it's their depth that they got after that first round that I absolutely love for them, and that's what brought them back up to a B- for me.
Yeah, I liked some of those later picks that they had as well, but I went I went with the C+ here. I really think that Damon Arnett pick was a reach. Yeah, I mean a big reach. I just didn't.
It was. I mean, there's no way around.
I didn't see him going that high at all. But that's why I gave them a C. I like a lot of the rest of their draft. Henry Ruggs there. Give Derek Carr a great weapon. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out.
Right on. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos. What did you give them?
I gave them a B. I really liked their Jerry Jeudy pickup. He's like we've been over a lot. He's the best receiver in this year's draft, bar none for me. I don't think there's any question really. And then, you go get KJ Hamler, wide receiver out of Penn State. They need wide receiver help. I mean, I know they got Sutton there, but they're building their offense. They really invested in the offense in this draft, and I can't knock them for it.
They've spent this whole offseason. That's why I love this, because then you turn around and then the third round, Michael Ejimuda, cornerback out of Iowa, turned some heads at the combine, ran a 4.42 40. At times, would look lost, but, he got it together for the most part at the end of last year, and if he starts looking more of like that player that just tested out at the combine, you've got a starting corner there. I know Chris Harris is not going to replace him, but you know what? He has the potential to start opposite this year from AJ Boye, who they got from Jacksonville. Then you turn around and you get your starting center for the next probably 5 to 6 years in Lloyd Cushenberry, who was not overly athletic, but a very solid player, starter for the national title team, great in the run game. And then you turn around and later on you get Albert Ogbongbon, tight end out of Missouri, flashed at times, too inconsistent. That's fine. My favorite pick for them is going to be Netane Muda, the guard in the 6th round. They took out of Fresno State, had 38 reps at the combine on the bench press. When he's played, even as a true freshman, we're talking first round pick. He just tore his ACL and then tore his ACL again his second and third year. So you've got some major injury concerns there. Is that just going to be, the case for him? Is he going to be able to be healthy enough to get on the field? But if he does, you've got a starting guard and a center out of this to protect Locke.
Yeah, potential's there.
Everything there to protect Locke, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. I gave them a C+ here. I like the running back pickup at 32 with.
I don't hate it.
I didn't hate that, but then the rest of their draft, I mean, there's nothing that jumps out to me. It's like that. Hey man, that's a great.
I think they should have went corner there. You had Jalen Johnson still available, Christian Fulton Diggs still available. You could even win Xavier McKinney out of Alabama. Yeah. You should have, to me, addressed your secondary there. But I understand. I mean, that's a stupid good fit to think with that offense.
Right,
to put
it's a hell of a luxury.
What he's able to do. Hilaire, can break tackles, is great in the run game and can pick up pass protection blitzes. The only player I like, then you turn around and you get Willie Gay in the 2nd out of LSU, another linebacker that can be a rotation player. The upside's not there to me, though, and so I don't love anything here, so I just gave him a straight-up C.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let us explain.
It's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Now download the free Anchor app and go to anchor.fm to get started.
And make sure you listen to the Heavyweights Podcast.
Thanks again to Anchor for always, allowing us all the tools we need to record our podcast, and then, obviously sponsoring us and putting us out. We're on 9 different platforms right now, so anywhere you listen to, you can tell anybody, wherever they listen to a podcast, we're on. I mean, we still even update to YouTube every week.
We'll be there.
Right.
But
let's move on to the NFC. We'll start off in the NFC West. We'll start off with the Washington Redskins. East.
You're good.
Oh, yeah, we are doing the East. Let's start off with the Washington Redskins. I personally gave them a C.
Same.
No-brainer pick at Chase Young. Absolutely none.
Yep.
You lost your second round pick because of the trade for Sweat last year with the Colts.
Whatever.
Antonio Gibson there in the third receiver. You could have went some other options. To me, Memphis, not Ohio State. I don't know. That's okay, but nothing else here jumps off the board, off paper or on the board to me.
Same here. That's why I gave him a C. They didn't make any things that I'm sitting here pounding the table. Why the hell did you do that? But at the same time,
Sadiq Charles, the LSU tackle, flat-footed to me, gets too stiff, doesn't bend his hips. You take him in the fourth. He's not going to be a starter. You just lost Trent Williams. Okay, so Keith Ishmael, the center out of San Diego State, you could have went back and gotten. Oh my God. You could have taken earlier. You could have taken Cushenberry or someone else that's more. Bertaz was there even. So why aren't you investing? And to me, you just outside of this defense, that's fine. But Ron Rivera's got nothing to protect or give weapons with Haskins.
Yeah, and how are you going to get that real evaluation of him without going out there and giving him the tools to be successful?
You're setting him up for failure.
Yeah. And then we'll just go ahead and move on to the New York Giants. I liked Gettleman's draft, actually. I gave him a B-.
Wow.
I didn't like Andrew Thomas. I thought that was a reach. I thought there was a lot of other.
Turns out a lot of people had him number one on their board, though. The Colts, the Giants, the Browns, the Cardinals, and I believe the Bucks all had him number one, which surprised me. And I get, he's got the upside, but he didn't show enough on film for me.
Right. And then getting Xavier McKinney there at 36, it's a great pick.
Love that pick.
To go with Jabril Peppers and have them at safeties, they're going to be real good in that deep secondary. But after that, they didn't make any crazy terrible picks. That's all I can say.
No, but I think they could have came back and gotten Josh Jones. A lot of teams.
They
took Matt Pert instead, who I guess would be a better fit inside at guard. Darnay Holmes, questionable. I think he only came in like 5'9" and a quarter. I think he was in the 4.6s almost, which is way too slow for a corner. Corners you want closer to 5'5" at minimum, otherwise you're pushing him back to safety. You had depth. The only other pick I really like there, I think, is Cam Brown, a linebacker out of Penn State, special teams player, or Shane Lemieux. Actually, Shane Lemieux, 42 straight starts out of Oregon, all 4 years. Not great in pass protection, but a damn good run blocker. So if he's your utility rotation lineman, you created some holes there. But other than that, just nothing crazy. But we'll move on to the Dallas Cowboys. I know you're high on them, and I have nothing wrong with what they did. I'm just going to give them a B+, though. I think they could have gone some. I love the Tyre Bidaz. Reggie Robinson, I think, to me was a reach, but Neville Gallimore, was my D-tackle number 4 after Blacklock. So
reaching on Robinson, though, I could justify a little bit. They need corner help. They're probably one of the worst teams at corner in the league to me. One of the depth wise, especially. So getting Diggs, getting a Robinson, take a flyer on him. You're using a 4th round pick there.
I just would have liked to have seen them actually being a team that needed to go after a tight end there earlier.
Yeah,
I would have. I think we'll get to Chicago later, but Cole Met wouldn't have been a terrible pick there. But
he probably wouldn't have been. He obviously wasn't there. But then we'll move on. I obviously gave them an A+. I liked.
Let's move on to the Eagles.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Eagles. I gave them a C. And
okay.
That's one of my lower grades. That's actually it's one of my lower grades. But we'll go to it right now. A lot of people will agree with me. You probably reached on Jalen Reagor.
You reached on Reagor. You should have taken Jalen Hurts.
For sure as fuck reached on Jalen Hurts. I don't give a damn what anyone says. I don't think. And plus, you don't need him. You don't need him. I don't know. I seen where their GM, Howie
Long.
No.
Rozelle.
Yeah, Rozelle. He said he's been haunted because he passed on Russell Wilson. If you're going to compare Jalen Hurts to Russell Wilson, dude, get the fuck out of here. The rest of their draft, I like the Kayvon Wallace safety out of Clemson. They need safety help after losing Malcolm Jenkins.
Okay.
Other than that, though, like,
You don't take another receiver, though, until the 5th round when you take John Hightower out of Boise
I guess
State.
they're banking on getting something out of Deshaun Jackson coming back off injury this year. Like, but he's old.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on anything. I gave them a D. Just you butchered to me your first round, and that's nothing against Jalen. It's just you reached on him. If that's Jalen Reagor right there in the second, I can justify that. If you give me Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor, I'd be like, holy shit! Like you've improved this team right there. Because if not, then you needed to go corner, you needed to go safety or linebacker.
Yeah,
you should have. You had no right taking a quarterback there. If you want to take a flyer on someone that you can think can be better later on, take Morgan out of Florida Atlantic or where the hell he went to transfer from Bowling Green.
Yeah.
All right, let's move divisions. Let's start off the Detroit Lions. Another draft that I actually, they didn't screw it up.
Looking at it, I'm a bigger fan than I actually realized.
Yeah, I went B- here.
Same.
You can't hate the Okuda. They might not have been as high on Isaiah Simmons, even though I was. DeAndre Swift to pair with Kerryon Johnson, love.
Yeah.
Julian Okarwa, if it wouldn't have been for, that injury against Duke earlier in the year, you're talking fringe first rounder who can get after the quarterback and is really good against the run, and he just creates havoc. Jonah Jackson, the guard's going to be a starter in this league. And then later on, you get Quentin Cephas, the receiver out of Wisconsin, later in the 5th round, who has high upside, who can go up and catch contested passes, is a really good blocker in the run game. So I kind of like this draft.
Yeah, and then like I said, I gave them a B-. I agree with everything you said there. I'll move on straight to the Chicago Bears. I gave them a D+. They're my second worst. So Cole Kmet, he's not a bad player. Good tight end, best tight end in this draft.
Yeah.
Down the line, he's probably going to be a hell of a player for the Bears. But they had way bigger needs.
He's probably higher on their board, I get, but to me, he's not fast enough to create that separation, what you're going to ask for. I love the draft because of their next pick.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell it for me, though, but to get Jalen Johnson
that's their best pick.
In later on in the second, you got a day one starter right there.
Yeah.
He's not overly athletic, but he doesn't. You turn on the film, you don't see anything wrong with his game. He's physical. He moves well. He can play in the cover 3. He can play in cover 2, and pressing on the line.
But then to go get another edge rusher.
Travis Gibson, I went back and had to watch the film. I was like, okay, let's see what we got here. You've got a player that has high upside, can get after the quarterback. He needs to put on some weight.
It's just not a need, or but you don't need to be going there.
You're in the 5th round at this point.
Yeah,
would I have liked to have seen them go after a couple more linemen here?
Wide receiver, maybe.
Of course, it's just I think they could have done a little. To me, they could have done better on the Cole Kmet. I get tight end was a major issue for them last year. Trey Burton wasn't what you wanted. I'm not going to knock the Jalen Johnson at all, but you could have went a future starter on your offensive line there, a future starter at receiver to give you some help outside of Robinson, which they need bad because he is a number 1 receiver in this league, and I'm sure he's tired of getting double teamed. Just get some pressure off of him, but you could have done a little more. I don't hate it as much as you. Other teams have done a lot worse. That's why they weren't even in my bottom 3. I just think, you took some flyers at the end. We'll see if any of those guys work out. If worse, they're going to be some rotation players, special teams. Cole Kmet, don't hate him as a player. Just, I think you could have done a little better there.
Yeah, we'll move right on to the Minnesota Vikings. I really like their draft. I went with an A- here to get Justin Jefferson in that first round where they're at. That replace Stephon Diggs. We're going to...
So you got a starter there.
Yeah, and then you got Jeff Gladney.
Absolutely love you. Trade back in the first round to get him.
Yeah, and then to come and get Cleveland.
Ezra Cleveland, he's going to be... A lot of people think he could be a left tackle in this league. I personally don't. But this allows you... No, I think he could be a right tackle.
Oh, okay.
Riley Reef still owed, I think, $19 million this year. You can cut him down, create some cap space, because they signed 15 players and they don't have the fucking cap space for this. Right. Straight up. But Ezra, you got another starter there. Then you come back and you get Cameron Dantzler, a very tall, rangy corner.
Might be somebody that wants to play safety down the line, maybe.
He's going to have to come in and play right away. DJ Wonnum, linebacker out of South Carolina, is going to play. James Lynch is going to rotate in, potential. You got potential there. And you come in later, you get KJ Osborne out of Miami, a fast, tall receiver. And then you got 4 7th-round picks. I don't know if any of them are going to be worth a goddamn thing.
But we'll see.
Nate Stanley, the quarterback at Iowa. I know a lot of people earlier in the year had him as a potential number one not number one overall, but first-round pick.
Yeah.
He's not it. It's just I gave them an A-.
Yeah,
I liked them. So
then we'll go with the shit show.
Can we just skip them? This is bad.
Well, we don't
need to talk about the first few.
I gave them an F. So
yeah, I gave them an F.
Yeah.
The only potential I think they have anything in here is John Runyon, the guard out of Michigan. His dad was an All-Pro.
Yeah, maybe he can turn into something for you there.
Yeah, let's just switch divisions.
Yeah, we'll go to the NFC South. We'll start off with the Carolina Panthers here. I didn't absolutely hate what they did here. They went defense. They're trying to revamp that defense. Maybe
they got 5 starters to me with their first 5 picks on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
So what'd you give them of a grade?
I gave them a B.
So did I. So Derek Brown, he's your number 1 player on your board. I personally think Isaiah Simmons would be a better long-term fit, but you don't, and that's fine. Derek Brown's going to wreak havoc. Is he going to be an Aaron Donald? No one's going to be an Aaron Donald, but he is a very, very good player. Yetur Gross-Matos, who a lot of people had, sneaking into round 1 as an edge rusher. Yeah. You know what? Get him. Great. Then you get Jeremy Chin, who was my favorite player.
Yeah, you're really high on him.
I'm banging my fist on this dude. He went to Hamilton Southeastern here in Indianapolis. Multiple games last year with 2 punt returns in the same game. Dude just can play in the box, can play up high. Just do it all. Safety that, is going to be your long-term starter back there. And then you get Troy Pride Jr.
Yeah.
In corner, later on in the 4th, he's going to be a nickel corner for you, and he's going to look perfect
he's
there.
Got the speed.
Then you get the first XFL player drafted, Kenny Robinson Jr., the safety out of West Virginia. Nice. Now, the reason why he was an XFL is because about a week before the season started, West Virginia had to drop him from academic ineligibility. He wasn't allowed to enter in the supplemental draft because the NFL season was training camps were already going. He looked good.
He's got a big upside.
He's got a huge upside. I love this. So you've got players right there. And then you could probably throw in Bravion Roy, former Matt Rule player down there in Baylor.
Yeah.
But rotation. But I love what they did here. I get they definitely need offensive help, and they probably should have went there. But
yeah.
The way their draft, looking out, that's the first thing I thought was oh shit, they didn't get any help for Bridgewater or McCaffrey. But I go back.
That's what they're doing next year.
I know, but I go back and I look, and I'm like, I love their first 5 picks though.
Yeah.
So
see that a lot.
Yeah. So I'm okay with it. So let's move on. The Tampa Bay Bucks, I think they were probably one of the more easyable, predictable teams going into this draft on what they needed to do. You invested in a 42-year-old at quarterback. You better keep him upright, because no matter, I don't care if you have your own workout nutrition system that's called TB12, something can happen. You're not what you were 14 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They got Tristan Wirfs in the first round, and they didn't have to trade up. John Lynch did it again. We'll talk about that later. But they got a hell of a left tackle there. At worst, he goes into right tackle. And then you come back in that second round and you get another fringe first-round prospect in Antoine Winfield Jr., which you needed safety help.
Yep.
Love that pick. You get your running back that you need in Keyshawn Vaughn, running back, a north and south runner in Vanderbilt. You don't ask him to do too much. And you get Tyler Johnson, who can catch almost anything thrown at him. We saw that catch he had against Auburn in the bowl game.
Yeah.
I love this draft, and I didn't think I would. But once Tristan Wirfs falls there, you get him at 13. I'm loving, and then Antoine Winfield.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they could use some more corner help here, but I enjoyed their draft.
Yeah, I gave him a B as well.
I guess I should say I gave him a B.
We'll move on to the Atlanta Falcons here. What did you think of the draft?
Okay, so I gave the Falcons a B-. I know Mel Kiper can kiss my ass. AJ Terrell, too much of a reach. At 16, yes. But he was still number five on my cornerback list, so I don't hate it. Marlon Davidson's got high upside D end out of Auburn. You know, we don't talk about him enough. You know, there was a lot of defensive players in the SEC this year. He probably should have been talked about a little more. But then you get your center for the next 8 to 9 years, and Matt Hennessy, who is just, you know what you're getting. He's not overly athletic. You know,
And once Mac's done.
Yeah. So, but I think you're going to love this pick. And that offensive line got a lot better. Their defensive line got better. And Terrell, at worst, is going to be a nickel corner in this league for at least 6 years.
Yeah.
So
I went with a C+. We're right around the same there. I didn't hate the Terrell pick. It's what, like you said, was it a reach? Yeah, but they drafted him for need, and if they thought he's the third best corner in this draft, then that's where you needed to take him.
B minus for me.
They had that was their biggest need, really, for me, was corner.
Yeah.
And then you go out and get an edge rusher.
I think they needed to address. They could have addressed linebacker a little earlier, and you could have got some more pass rushing help. But Marlon Davidson, I think their fans down there in Atlanta are gonna love that pick. You know, you're not gonna ask him to do too much right off the bat.
Yeah.
But think of a more physical Dante Fowler Jr. down there.
Yeah, and then we'll move right into the Arizona Cardinals. I gave them an A-.
So we're just skipping the Saints.
Oh, sorry. I thought the Saints were.
I mean, we can skip them because I gave them a C-, and you know we talked about their 4 picks. I love Cesar Ruiz, Bond there, but you gave up too much. You didn't get any help. I know you signed Emmanuel Sanders, but you still needed receiver help, no matter how you look at it.
Sorry there. I thought we were going in order how it finished. That's a totally different
Division. Yeah.
My bad. I had them crossed out accidentally. I went with C+ there for them. Not really high on what they did. I liked their first round pick, but I thought they could have possibly traded back a little bit and got him. And then
I think the interior offensive line class in this wasn't as valued as high as we thought.
Yeah.
Maybe even Sean Payton thought. But I mean, I know you're not going to knock the Zach Bond pick there in the 3rd round.
yeah, that's a hell of a pick up there.
But
if he can stay healthy, that's a great pick.
When you get in Trotman, you give away, your 5th, 6th, and 7th, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And then you trade back in when you're going to sign Jameis to get Tommy Stevens, who, if anybody doesn't know, played quarterback at Decatur Central here, went to Penn State and transferred down to Mississippi State. He got benched this past year when he got hurt, and
kind of a wasted pick.
I don't understand that. I think you gave up a 7th next year to come back and get him. You're not going to carry 4 quarterbacks, so complete waste.
Yeah.
C-. Now we can move on to your Arizona Cardinals.
I went with A-. I love the Isaiah Simmons pickup.
Thank you.
Sitting there and coming down. Every team he was passing, me and you were sitting there like, man, Isaiah Simmons would be great here. He would be great there. But
I think he's the most surefire pick in this draft class. And that's over Chase Young for me. To sit there and you had Mel Kiper saying, he's the most versatile player. He doesn't have a true position. And then you come out and say the next day after the first round, where does he fit? Your entire defense.
Where the fuck you want him to fit?
And then they got, because I loved it, I gave him A- too. They turned around and got Josh Jones as starting tackle in the 3rd round.
Right.
And then you got Leaky Futa, who is a 6'5", 330-pound D tackle who plays light and quick on his feet and is going to be able to go up front. You got 3 starters with your first 3 picks.
Yeah,
I know
that's what you want.
And then you take that in and factor in that you got a 2nd rounder.
And DeAndre Hopkins.
You gave up a 2nd rounder for DeAndre Hopkins. Okay.
Yeah.
Sold. A- for them.
Touchdown.
All right. Move on to the next team in the division that finished a little higher than last year, the Los Angeles Rams. I'm probably higher on them than you. Actually, I guarantee you I am, because I gave them a B+, which a lot of people weren't giving them high grades. But if you look, we knew they didn't have a first-round draft pick. Okay, you got Jalen Ramsey. That's great. But then you come back and you start getting depth in other rounds. I like what they did. You got Cam Akers, the Todd Gurley replacement there. He's a quicker back. You don't have to pound the ball like you would with Gurley. Van Jefferson is essentially a younger Brandon Cooks. You got another replacement there. Terrell Lewis.
I like that pick.
Injury history, but you know what? When he is on the field, is one of the best linebackers in the country.
Yeah.
And then Bryson Hopkins, tight end out of Purdue, can block really well and catch the ball. Then you got your kicker later in Sam Solomon, the kicker out of Miami, Ohio, who's got a cannon of a leg and was extremely accurate. So I actually like this new
I
guy.
gave the Rams a C+. I didn't hate anything they did, but I didn't.
Everything they drafted there to
Nothing
me
jump off the page.
hit their needs, though.
I really like the Alabama linebacker Tyrell
Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis. He's a really good player, and I think putting him on that defense with Brockers and Aaron Donald and all them, they're gonna be fine. Then we'll move on to the San Francisco 49ers. They did a lot in this. They moved around a little bit.
So essentially, they gave up their starting All-Pro defensive tackle DeForest Buckner. They turn around and they get the 13th overall pick.
That they don't have to pay. They went and got Javon Kinlaw. I know
Which
you
they
were
flipped.
really high on.
Flipped for a third rounder,
Right.
or was it a third or fourth?
It was I think it was a third.
Third or fourth. Either way, they trade back one spot. They get Javon Kinlaw, who is a top 10 player in this class, freak of an athlete. They're going to love him more down there than they will DeForest Buckner because Buckner's better.
Pay him too.
But he's a better pass rusher for now.
Right.
And then you come back and you trade back in that extra pick you got. You get Brandon Ayuk, the receiver out of Arizona State, who I absolutely love. And then what sets it over the top for me is you come back and you get Trent Williams in a trade. So I gave them an A- just because of that.
I gave him a B+. So
Okay.
I didn't hate anything. And then we'll go with the last team here, the Seattle Seahawks. I gave them a C.
Ooh,
I
just a straight C?
Yeah, just a regular
Okay.
C. Jordan Brooks,
I love that pick.
I like the pick. I just think you could have maybe traded back a little bit and got him.
Which was surprising they didn't do.
The Darrell Taylor pick from Tennessee.
I was a little questionable
Yeah.
on that high in the second round.
I didn't mind the Damian Lewis pick, but then there's nothing they did that I was like, man, that's a good pick.
Okay, so we're so used to, I think, Seattle trading back. Jordan Brooks, think of a more rangy. I hate to make this comparison, but Bobby Wagner at linebacker. You're not when you're in a 3-yard box with this man, you're not making him miss. Like, he is going to bring you to the ground and he can cover. Because I went back and was watching. I talked about him a little bit before the draft started on our last podcast. Jordan Brooks, don't be surprised if he sneaks into the first round. A great day 2 linebacker, though. Damian Lewis, I think, is going to be a starting guard for you for a while. Colby Parkinson, I understand this tight end signing because he can block really well and you can do the double tight end sets that Pete Carroll loves to do in the red zone. And then DJ Dallas, you had running back issues going into the playoffs last year. You got a quick shifty back there that hopefully can pair with Rashard Penny or anybody else. It depends on who all they're bringing back. I need to look at it again. Yeah. And then you take a flyer on Freddie Swain, a small, almost like a Percy Harvin type receiver, not as fast, even though he's trying to come back in the league.
I've seen that. Yeah.
But I don't hate it here. I didn't write their grade down. I don't hate it as much as you. I'd probably go B- for them.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, well, let's kick it to Nick's favorite segment here. Would you rather?
Oh yeah, it's that time of week again where we throw out 2 blind stat lines and let you pick the player you would rather start. Would you rather?
Alright, so another episode of Would You Rather. Since it's draft related, it's post-draft week, it's going to be draft players mixed in with NFL players this week that are already on the roster. So we're going to start off with the running backs. Player A ran a 4.53 40. His 3-cone drill at the combine was a 7.19. Yards per carry the last year was 5.3, 15 total touchdowns, and then yards after contact was 1.6 yards. Player B ran a 4.56 40. 3-cone was 6.32. Yards per carry was 5.5. Total touchdowns was 19, and then yards after carry were 2.4.
Yards after contact.
Yards after contact.
Neither one of these guys jump off with the speed, really. But they're pretty close on the 40. I'm going to go with B based on, quickness here in the 3-cone drill and total touchdowns. And, yeah, I'm going to go with B.
Okay, well, you're going to stick with Aaron Jones and not draft A.J. Dillon. Because they basically essentially drafted the same running back, and that's what I don't get. The yards after contact is what I like to see too, but that 3-cone, that shiftiness and quickness in the hole,
yeah,
Dillon doesn't have it. Like, I went back and looked, and I'm like, I don't see this guy.
He's more of a bruiser downhill runner.
I just don't see him even being a starter, and I might be wrong, but I was not sold on him.
I mean, who's their backup running back? He wasn't even bad either. That's
we talked
Williams or whatever.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. Just
Yeah, it's
go
fine.
on.
So we'll go to we're just going to do one more group this week. So we're going to go to corner. All right. Player A is 6 foot, 197. He's 21 years old. All right. We're going to 4.46 40. Passer rating when targeted, allowed 71.6 passer rating. Had 18% missed tackles when, engaged within a 3-yard box. Okay. Player B is 6 foot, 190, 24 years old. Ran a 4.56 40. Passer rating when targeted, though, was 62.8.
Yeah.
8 pass breakups last year, 24% missed tackle rate.
Shit.
You got to take one of them.
Yeah, I get it. I'm gonna go with A. Based on speed, and he doesn't miss as many tackles, but he obviously
passer rating.
He obviously gives
good.
up more. Oh, okay.
I mean, those passer ratings are pretty low.
Yeah.
And you got to think that's all right. These two are college, so that's low.
Oh, both of them are in college.
Yeah, both of them are in college.
I didn't know that.
Sorry, that's pretty high.
I'm gonna go with A.
Okay, so you're gonna go with Christian Fulton, who went to the Tennessee Titans, 2nd round, 61 overall.
Who was B?
Damon Arnett,
Okay.
who doesn't tackle well enough. I know Fulton's.
I had
Fulton
Fulton
doesn't want to tackle as much either. When you see that, it's just, man, I don't hate Arnett. Man, if this was a 2nd or 3rd round pick, I'm like, hell yeah, but I don't like the fact that he's also compared that when he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
He's 23.7. Like, he's only a couple months away, but
Right.
he's basically going to be a 24-year-old rookie this year. So his ceiling's not as high, and his floor might be a tad bit higher, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, you ready to crack some beers open and get that 6-pack flowing?
Yeah, I've been thirsty for over an hour.
All right, let's go.
This is the 6-pack of the week.
All right, so with the first question, I'll keep it to this year's draft. Just the first one, though. How many wide receivers were drafted in this draft, 2020 draft?
27.
34.
All right.
All right. Who was the 2005 Defensive Player of the Year?
So, in 2006 championship. Man, was that Urlacher's year?
Yeah. In what year of eligibility was Jason Taylor inducted into the Hall of Fame?
2017?
Yeah. So, but what,
Oh, sorry.
what, was it his first, his second, or his third? Was he a first ballot?
He was not a first ballot. I want to say 3rd.
He was a first ballot.
Was he first?
Yeah.
That's man, I could have sworn he wasn't.
No, he was. All right.
I mean, I'm not,
Yeah. How many players have won the Defensive Player of the Year award multiple times?
Multiple times?
Yeah. So
Oh, man. So, Lawrence Taylor. Man. I'm only going to go 3.
9. You got Bruce Smith in there.
I wasn't going to take forever to go through
I'm just
this.
saying, you got Mike Singletary, a bunch of guys in there. All right. What team has the most players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Pittsburgh Steelers?
Chicago Bears, 28.
Okay.
Now, you could ramp that number up to 34, but they didn't get in as Bears. They've played for the Bears before, but these are just players that are in there as Bears. But there are other players that played for the Bears at some point in time. And then, who was the 2003 Offensive Rookie of the Year?
2003. So, man. Just try to go back. That would have been fucking Patriots year winning the Super Bowl. I wasn't a quarterback.
It wasn't.
No, I know. That's because, man. I can't even give you a name off the top of my head.
Anquan Bolden.
Okay. Set a rookie record for most receptions in the first season down there in Arizona with 103 catches.
Yeah, I mean, he was there with Big Ben, Eli, and
Philip
Rivers.
Yeah, but he set the record that year for most and it still hasn't been broken.
And then they come back and draft a Larry Fitzgerald next year.
Anquan Bolden's been underrated for quite some time just because of, he was overshadowed by everybody.
Next week we're going to give you our first after the draft power rankings. See where everybody see where it all lays for us, and we'll come up with some more stuff too.
Yeah, don't forget to answer. We'll have a question of the week this week just because we're finally out of the clear with the draft. Hopefully all this stay at home slowly easing up for your state and here. Just keep staying safe and enjoy your week, everybody.